came down to DC and we had some lovely chicken parmesan.
It's awesome, Connor. Well, we're going to do our episode today on Beau is Afraid, which is recently released, which is the new Ari Aster, Joaquin Phoenix movie that is out. Let's just dive right in, Connor. Can you give a little backstory to what Beau is Afraid is about?
Okay, where to begin? The basic like log line of the picture is that Joaquin Phoenix is this kind of perpetually afraid and paranoid man named Beau who is visiting his mother, and he goes on essentially this epic Kafka-esque, disturbing, horrifying, hilarious, bizarro, epic odyssey to just see his mom. Ari Aster himself describes it as a Jewish Lord of the Rings, which, if anything, that piqued my interest even further.
Yeah, this movie, it's not really one
It's
you
something.
can't really sum it up even like in a couple sentences because it is so, as you said,
Dense.
surreal, dreamlike. I don't know if something's happening on screen is real or if it's a dream or if it's something else, a hallucination. It's a crazy time in the theater. I will come out and say that. What
Yeah,
did you think, Connor? Like overall thoughts?
I was pretty speechless by the end of this. I This is certainly, I knew going in that this was going to be such a polarizing film. A love it or hate it one, if anything. I'm definitely in the love it crowd. This is probably my favorite of the year so far. I was really, really just taken by the whole experience of seeing this film. It was, I think, the only Ari Aster film I saw in the theater. In fact, I got to see it at a fan first screening at the AMC in Georgetown in IMAX, packed showing,
Wow, not like a
and we
single
and we got
seat, not a single seat
yeah,
open.
yeah, and we got shirts.
Wow, what do the shirts look like?
They're basically like the Beau's gray shirt from the whole film, and it just has like his name on it.
That's so
It's still a
cool.
fun little souvenir.
No, yeah, the free merchant, yeah, free
MK24.
merchandise for anything, I'll take it personally. I have to come out and say this movie took me through a journey that I didn't know I was gonna be going on for that 3 hour time period, and
Yeah, you don't know where this thing is gonna go
I don't know
at
if
all.
I'm at the point where I love this movie, but I think it's a great film. I think it's a really really solid time. To put into perspective, I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so
I give it a
that's
five.
around where I'm at with it because yeah, maybe it's gonna be one of those that I think about it more and I start to like it more,
Yeah,
right?
it
Because
feels like it's definitely. I've only seen it once. I am definitely seeing it a second and possibly third time just to dive so deep into all the layers of this picture, all the symbolism of it, and just the way that Ari Aster just creates this nightmare world. It's it it's a 3 hour trip worth going on, certainly.
I'm I don't even need to ask this. I think he took some narcotics while writing this movie. I don't know which ones per se, but it's
Yeah,
hard to believe that he wrote this sober
yeah.
completely.
For context, this is Ari Aster's third feature film. He directed the two excellent horror pictures, Hereditary and Midsummer for A24, which if you're listening to this, you've probably seen them. They're at this point they're like somewhat modern classics, and they really established his name in the horror genre. That being said, Ari Aster definitely, especially with this film, seems to be trying to deviate from that label, and he's branching out, and that's why I really, part of why I respect him for it. And because when I first saw it announced, I thought it was going to be a little more like horrific, although this does like have horrific elements to it. It's ostensibly a fantastical black comedy.
Yeah, I don't see
And
this as a horror movie, Connor. I don't
no,
yeah.
no, I don't say so. And it's basically, this is what happens. This movie is what happens when you give Ari Aster 35 to 40 million dollars, A24's biggest budget to date, and get him to do whatever the fuck he pleases. And it is it's a
I'm
ride.
okay with it that he got
And
35 mil to do what he
three
wanted.
hours. And 3 hours too. Originally it was announced as being a 4 hour rough cut, which again I can just only imagine how, if this is like as far as he can go with the 3 hour cut, like imagine how the 4 hour cut is.
I know.
I would not be opposed to seeing like a midsummer like director's cut of this.
Yeah, I have to say that, like you kind of already mentioned
The
this,
runtime
but
didn't really bother me like it did a lot of people.
this is by far his boldest work to come out of
Oh
out of
yeah.
his three films. But at the same time, I have a feeling it's not going to be as accessible as his other ones.
Oh
Weirdly, yeah.
no. Oh no. It's easily it is I can I don't know if I'd like recommend this film to everyone as much as I would even recommend those films, because this is such a swing. It is a without a doubt this is without a doubt an art house picture. It is not it's not made for mainstream audiences. It's a bold swing. I've heard it compared to, well, a lot of times this film reminded me of I'm Thinking of Ending Things, but somehow like first of all a lot funnier, and like somehow even more bizarre. So that should probably give you an idea of what it's like. And I've also heard it compared to films like Mother or even Babylon in terms of just it being a big budget swing by one of the big modern American directors, and being like very inaccessible and bizarre and just balls to the wall, just pure, just everything, including the kitchen sink.
Yeah,
And I can definitely see it alienating a lot of viewers. It is not for everyone.
and for those that haven't seen the trailer, maybe, which like if you haven't, like just go watch it. It's a really good trailer.
Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't show a whole lot.
Yeah. But something to note is like it does have to do with themes of like pharmaceutical drugs. So when it does get trippy, in my opinion, it wasn't super random, which I liked. Like, it actually had a plot point and a reasoning to it.
Yeah, the surrealism with this film, when it dives into it, it goes head first, just full on David Lynch into it, and it's just gorgeous at time. There's this, we'll just detail it more in the spoiler section, but there's an halfway through the film, there's a whole animated section of the film where the only live actors are Joaquin Phoenix and a couple others, and it's just, you've seen a little bit of it in the trailers. It is just stunning to look at. It was it was particularly hypnotic just to see it in the theater, and in IMAX. This is a movie like you have to see in a theater.
Yeah,
in order to
I
fully
watched
get the
it
most
in
out of it.
in a AMC, and unfortunately at my theater it wasn't very crowded. So please go out and
It was it
support
in
it. It
IMAX?
wasn't IMAX. It was a standard like AMC showing, but
Oh,
still, like six people in the
IMAX
entire
is ideal.
theater, and me and my brother are two of the six. It's just not a good turnout.
Yeah, I thought so, because this, given that's 35 million and it's such a swing, probably even bigger than say like just I'd say like as big as Mother maybe. This is gonna lose money. I definitely see this getting like an F on Cinema Score. I've heard stories about like audience member, thankfully not my screening, but I've heard stories in some reviews of audience members like straight up. I've heard like 10 walkouts out of some screenings,
Damn,
and
dude.
like people shouting, somebody shouting out during the screening like this movie fucking sucks.
Well, it's not accessible. Like the plot is really tough to follow, I must
Yeah,
say.
I can see people hating this
But if
film,
you like movies that
not understanding
are
it.
super introspective, right, and are super even existential at times, and talk about generally universal themes, right? There's a huge component when
Yeah,
it comes to
it is.
his relationship with a family member in the movie, which we will go into in the spoiler section.
Yeah, because the spoiler section is going to take up the large chunk of this episode, because this is a film that warrants maybe even like multiple like spoiler discussions
It's even
because
like,
it
I'm gonna
is
be honest with you, Connor. It's
so
hard to talk about
dense.
this movie without even spoiling something because it's just such a deep dive movie into
Yeah,
the mental
it's
state
such
of
a
Beau.
yeah, and I was if you're going again, if you're going into this expecting a horror film, expecting something really just like I can't sleep at night, terrifying like Midsummer, Hereditary, you'll come out disappointed.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's not a horror movie, guys. I
It's a
don't know.
black
Yeah,
comedy.
we do have to say this, Connor. Joaquin Phoenix
Yeah,
is incredible in the movie. My God.
as usual. Like I think it, saying this is one of Joaquin Phoenix's better works, I don't know if this even means much because like everything he does is like one of his best
He
works
walks onto
lately.
set and it's already like we already got something on our hands. I'm not even
Yeah,
kidding.
and he's certainly a character in this film. He his character. We'll talk about it more in the spoiler section again, but his character again is like we kind of feel his just kind of what at every situation that he ends up in, and we just feel his like perpetual fear of pretty much everything and anything around him, and it is he captures that so well, and it's just he's so funny in this
So
film.
funny, dude. He was
Like
so
when
funny.
he's just like waking up at Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane's house, he's just like, "And what is that?
Or how
What?"
about that part, Connor, where he's in a bathtub and he looks above him and there's a
And
special
it's
guest, dude. There's a special guest. Oh
yes,
my God, dude.
yes. This movie is it was my audience in particular, like during the first hour of the film, were just having such a ball with it, and they were hooting and laughing throughout it, and with the film
Yeah, and like
too. It's a funny
and
film.
something to mention too is Joaquin Phoenix does not get a break in this movie. My God.
No,
They are
no,
just
he
going through the ringer with this Beau character.
yeah, especially compared to and it did it in such a way that's like not overly pitying, almost like with Joker you like kind of like okay they're clearly trying to get us to feel really sorry for this guy, but like automatically when you see Beau you just the very first one of the first scenes of the film is him like going back to his ratty apartment and then having to hear this loud music next to him and not get any sleep and then get an important item stolen from him. And so you're like, again, this dude cannot catch a break.
Yeah, I'd be
The poor
genuinely
guy.
surprised if somebody from New York thought this was a bad movie because
No.
I think it really gets it right when it comes to living in an apartment with roommates that
Hint,
you don't
hint.
know.
Yeah. Hint, hint. Birthday boy stab man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Some of the characters that were like side characters
It
were so weird,
it's
dude. So
memorable.
weird.
It's like and when the first time you see him like going to his place, you see like 15 different like almost side plots going on in 1 minute because there's so much there are like hundreds of extras each like seems like new characters, and if I recall correctly Ari Aster actually made character bios for every character in Hereditary before while writing the script, and so that kind of informed his writing of that. I would not be surprised if he did something similar just for the extras in this movie.
Yeah,
When
there
you
were
see
just
this,
so many and that's probably where some of that budget went, right? Is just getting those
yeah,
scenes down
certainly.
like in an authentic way. I have to say this. There's this small little story I heard from Ari Aster speaking with Joaquin Phoenix on the A24 podcast.
Mm,
And it was essentially one of the first days of shooting. Joaquin Phoenix is on set next to his suitcase and is doing something that he thinks is in character, right? But is not in the script. And Aster comes up to
like
Phoenix.
ad lib.
Yeah, and Aster comes up to Phoenix and is like all giddy about it. And Joaquin literally tells him, like, hey, are you gonna be like this the whole time where like everything I do you're just gonna say it's like solid gold like acting? Is that what it's gonna be like? He even was like kind of challenging the director to a certain level of you can't just always say I'm good when I'm doing something different. And I think I have to say Aster got pushed by this performance in this movie because
Yeah,
it
certainly.
is, I would say, out of all of
This
his
is
films,
like
the most character centric, right? I mean, his name is in the
yeah,
title.
this is an actor director collab if there was one, because I feel like they're both like kind of the forces behind Beau is Afraid, and they both like I don't think I can really imagine anyone else playing Beau, honestly.
That's how
I
good
feel
he
like
is
this
in the
was I
role,
think this was
dude.
written
You
for
walk out of
him.
the movie and you're like, yep, there was nobody better for that part.
Yeah, I like bought him 100% as like this kind of like aloof, slightly aloof but troubled character, and it's the, from what I recall, I actually listened to another interview that this time it was with Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan, who play the military family that take Beau in after an accident happens. They talked about how Ari Aster, even though there was so much written and done for the film, he still did allow some improvisation, and I think became a little more flexible with that when he got Joaquin Phoenix, because he is such a known method actor and is like kind of again willing to do whatever it takes to get into character.
He, for
And
me,
yeah,
Connor, is probably a top 5 working actor right now. I'm
certainly
not even kidding. I think
one of
he
them.
every time, like you said, he does a film, it is a must watch film. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, he always, even if it's a like a picture I don't really care for, it's never his doing.
Yeah.
Like I always still like believe him in that part.
I have to say this as well. Aster, visually speaking, this is a little bit different than his other work, I must say.
Yeah, even though it's like just as incredible looking and
I think
sounding and
visually, I
watch.
don't think he's directed better. I think that on a visual standpoint alone, this is
Yeah,
his best directed picture.
yeah, technically it's just an astonishing film, and this is part of the reason why I saw it in IMAX.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I saw the opening scene and like heard it coming out of all the sound coming out of all the speakers, because the very first scene of the film, which is of Beau being born, basically from his POV, another first of all like a very strange way to an already very strange way to start a film that
I will say
I was
this
already like
though. I will
whoa.
say this. Andrew Dominic can learn some lessons from Ari Aster on how to show somebody giving birth and not make it so traumatizing to watch.
Exploitative,
Yeah.
yeah. And plus this is already like kind of like a mock scary scene, and I was as soon as I saw that in IMAX and with the surround system, I was just like I knew this was going to be, and then the title just suddenly comes up. I was just like, this is going to be a
One
trip.
of the first moments where I realized like this sound design is going to be A1 in this movie.
This film sounds fantastic. Like, even if you like end up watching it at home, like listen to it with surround sound. It helps.
Definitely. Well, do you have any other thoughts besides like just to get in before the spoiler section?
Uh, I think I said a lot of what I wanted
Yeah.
to say at first, because we are going to dive
We're
deep,
going hard on Beau's Afraid, guys. It's one of those movies. You got to.
deep.
All right. Well, I will say this as a final thing before we go into spoilers. Um, the camera work on this is exquisite. Long shots, dolly shots, anything you can think of, but done to a point that is not distracting, which I always freaking
Yeah,
love in movies.
that's what I always liked about Ari's stuff. Like even from Hereditary, like there were parts where I didn't when we first see Anne Dowd's character introducing her like apparition powers to Tony Collette. Like I did not know that scene was going to be. I did not know until it ended, until it cut, that it was going to be one take.
Yeah. No,
And,
it was
like
exquisite, dude.
without a doubt, like he has Kubrick in him, stylistically,
100%.
and in terms of just the swings he's willing to take, and his perfectionism, from what I recall. Because in an interview, obviously he didn't go to nearly the extremes, but he was willing to go to based on the interview with Nathan Lane on the Next Best Picture podcast. Check them out. He talked about how they were willing to. He was willing to do a lot of takes, and eventually, but he didn't like do it to the point where he was trying to torment the actors. And he basically said later on, like when he talked to Nathan Lane, he was saying like don't focus as much on the lines as much as you are focusing on the fact that this character is gonna like say whatever he can to keep Beau in his house. And that was the direction he gave.
Great direction, I must say. And something to note too, this movie was supposed to be released in 2022, and Aster felt like it wasn't ready yet, so he held off the movie for a
Yeah.
year just to get it right in his vision, which I think is always the way to
Yeah.
go, right?
Yeah, I really give kudos to A24 for giving. I don't know if it was the most savvy financial move, but it was certainly such a commendable decision from them to actually like give money and financing to something that was like this big of a swing.
Definitely. And did you know, Connor, that this movie was originally supposed to be his debut, but he just couldn't get the financing for
Yeah,
it?
as a matter of fact, he made a short film titled Beau as kind of a proof of concept for it.
And
Honestly,
a lot of the scenes in that script is in this
were
movie. Yeah.
yeah, because I don't know how this could be a debut feature. I think even like something like Hereditary, I guess could be a debut feature, but like even then, like wow, what a debut! Like he already had his style, like he already wore his style like a glove, like first
So
off, and
confident with his
that was a
direction.
moment
Yeah.
where I was like, this guy's gonna go on to this guy's already gone on to greatness, and I plus I don't know how this film Beau is Afraid could get made without already like one or two successful films under his belt. Yeah, there's no
I can see
way.
why this wasn't the debut, because my God, how
No,
do you wrap your head around some of these concepts?
this had to have been at the very least a third feature.
Yeah,
At least a third feature.
I agree. Well,
Spoiler section,
so
deep
this is a warning,
dive.
guys. If you haven't seen Beau's Afraid, please go watch it and support it. It needs your help. It really does.